villages of eastern France, church bells are a reassuring reminder that all is well. But 4 centuries ago, the bells had another meaning. In 1573, terror stalked the land. A rumor swept through the village that a monster was prowling the countryside, devouring women and children. Three villagers who startled the beast swore it had the features of a local man named Gilles Gagnier. Gagnier, a poor, hungry recluse, was arrested and brought to trial. But his crime was not murder or cannibalism. He was accused of being a werewolf. A flesh-eating wolf disguised as a human is a legend of evil as old as time. But Hollywood would reinvent the myth and transform a man into a wolfman. Whenever the moon is full, so the story goes, the demon within takes hold. Triggered by a curse or a magic potion, wolf-like hair begins to grow, and with it, the urge to kill. Today, the werewolf remains one of our most enduring myths. But did they really exist? Ancient books record thousands of alleged cases. This one contains the story of the most notorious werewolf of the 16th century, Gilles Gagnier. In it, his accusers testify they saw a wolf man. But did they see a wolf who looked like a man? Or a man who looked like a wolf? This is not Hollywood makeup. The hair is real. Each year, Robert's International Circus tours Mexico, delighting audiences young and old. Most of its performers are unknown, but no other circus in the world has an act like the Gomez brothers, billed as the Wolf Boys.
Unas personas los llaman los niños lobos.
People know them as the Wolf Boys, but I also present them as the most famous Mexican kids in the world, Danny and Larry.
Circus owner Roberto Compa and his son Mundo took Danny and Larry out of a carnival when they were boys and trained them as trapeze and trampoline artists. Born with a rare medical condition called hypertrichosis, thick, soft hair completely covers their faces, even their eyelids.
Well, I've had this hair for 18 years, and I think if I didn't have it, no one would recognize me. It's because of my hair that everybody notices me. But then again, I have no choice.
Danny and Larry are unique. They're the 6th generation of their family to inherit hypertrichosis, which simply means excess body hair. In all other respects, they are perfectly normal and healthy. Larry and Danny's family isn't the only one to ever live with this strange condition. In fact, similar cases of this genetic abnormality have shown up all around the world. This Burmese family suffered from the same condition and could only earn a living in the circus. In Austria, a castle that was owned by Petrus Gonzalez contained portraits on the wall which document one of the earliest known cases from the 1500s. Petrus Gonzalez married a woman who was perfectly normal, but records show their children all inherited his wolf-like features. Could 16th century werewolf Gilles Gagnier have been misunderstood too? Modern evidence may show us another reason why Gagnier behaved like a werewolf. When Truth or Scare continues.
Don't go away. Discovery Kids will be right back after these messages.
When suspected werewolf Gilles Gagnier was arrested, he was presumed guilty and tortured until he confessed the details of his crime. 16th century law set forth the telltale signs of a werewolf, and Gagnier fit the description to a T. There was one more crucial piece of evidence against him. A jar of strange ointment found with him when he was captured. In his testimony, Gagne said he made a pact with an evil spirit he encountered in the forest. The spirit gave him a magic potion to rub over his body. It was this potion, he said, that transformed him into a werewolf. Who he met in the forest and why is unknown. But if his trial were held today, the magic potion could be explained, and James Duke would be called to testify. Duke thinks Gagne may have been ill and gone to a witch for treatment.
Apparently they didn't have real doctors in, and a witch was someone who, through experience, knew the healing power of the plant.
Duke is an expert when it comes to the healing power of plants. He's not a witch, but he knows how they may have used plants to make powerful special potions. A botanist with the United States Department of Agriculture for nearly 30 years, he traveled the globe learning the secrets of folk healers and witches, a practice that's changed little in 400 years.
She would talk to you, just like a doctor today, get an analysis. After she'd figured out what was wrong, she'd probably go get some of her dried herbs or maybe go into the forest and pull up the right herbs. They knew which herbs did what.
A witch needed a sensitive tongue and strong nerves. Modern pharmacists use accurate scales to fill a prescription, but witches relied on trial and error, using smell and taste to judge the potency of plants. A bitter taste or slight burning sensation meant the herb was strong. It was a high-risk game of guesswork for both the witch and the patient.
And nobody really knew the strength of these things. One weed might cure your convulsions, another might be 10 times as strong and potent and might actually cause convulsions. Another could be closer to 50 times more potent and might kill you. So without careful measuring, you don't know the potency of a medicinal plant.
Some of the herbs witches used contained mind-altering chemicals that could cause sinister symptoms.
If you apply the concoction that your witch had fixed for you, it just might cause you to hallucinate. And among the hallucinations possible, one might be to imagine that you're a wolf.
Did a witch's potion turn Gilles Gagne into a werewolf?
The salve was put on the skin because if you took it orally, it would taste bad, and sometimes it would make you sick. So rubbing it on the skin gives it a chance to enter the skin. Sometimes it gets in the bloodstream faster that way. You bypass the nausea and the vomiting, and sometimes you have the side effects quicker.
What witches couldn't control was the impact of their concoctions on the psyche of their patients. The sensation of turning into a monster who could kill could be like falling under a horrifying spell. As scary as it sounds, there are people who still use these witch recipes. They live in the rainforests of Peru. They're called curandero. Duke has been studying these modern medicine men for many years.
My shaman in the forest, instead of turning into a wolf, he turns into a jaguar, and he likes that, and he returns feeling more powerful. The forest is his temple, and this is sort of a religious experience with him. It is a communion with the gods.
Was convicted werewolf Gilles Gagne a victim of a witch or a prisoner of his own brain? After 4 centuries, a link may have been found between mentally ill patients and the legend of the werewolf. When Truth or Scare returns.
Don't go away. Discovery Kids will be right back after these messages.
Kids, where it's your world.
Confessed werewolf Gilles Gagne testified that a magic ointment had turned him into an animal with a lust for blood. The courts found him guilty of being a werewolf. But was he? 4 centuries later, a witness would come forth to testify that werewolves like Gilles Gagne may not have been perpetrators of dastardly deeds, but prisoners of their own minds. Chief psychiatrist Harrison Pope of McLean Hospital in Massachusetts was interested in finding out more about lycanthropy, a mental illness that causes people to believe they are animals.
Among the various patients that we saw here at the hospital, there were some who had visible barking, growling, crawling on all fours, feral posturing, lying on the ground or under the bed. It is a fascinating phenomenon that so many of the patients believed that they were wolves or dogs out of a choice of thousands of possible animals. Now, what it is in the human brain that causes people to choose this particular type of delusion, we do not know.
To try and discover the origins of lycanthropy in the brain, Pope and other experts used an MRI.
Also in the temporal lobes you can see there is a large degree of atrophy.
Behind the eyes on either side of the skull are the temporal lobes, which play a primary role in sound, smell, and memory. Irritation of certain spots in the temporal lobes can cause hallucinations, such as imaginary odors or voices. In most people, they appear full and healthy. But in some psychotics, they are shrunken, causing abnormal electrical signals called complex partial seizures. Associated with these seizures are what psychiatrists call fixed delusions, such as the recurring nightmare of being a wolf. Gilles Gagné allegedly attacked 9 other people before he was captured. If so, his behavior could have been the result of a fixed delusion that he was a werewolf. Could a temporal lobe seizure have been the culprit? Gagné suffered from severe malnutrition. Something as simple as a lack of vitamin B6 in the diet could be the cause of seizures in the temporal lobes. Could it have actually been something that Gilles Gagné ate that turned him into a werewolf? We'll learn how a batch of bad bread may have turned one man terribly mad. When Truth or Scare returns.
Don't go away. Discovery Kids will be right back after these messages.
Discovery Kids, where it's your world.
In France, 4 centuries ago, the case of accused Wolfman Gilles Gagné caused a sensation. Each day, as more sordid details of his crime became known, outrage turned to obsession. We still don't know exactly why Gagné attacked his fellow villagers. One thing we do know is that he was not alone. Between 1520 and 1630, the jails housed a constant flow of accused werewolves. Over 30,000 were tried in France alone. Most were poor, pitiful rejects of society. They denied they were werewolves, but judges used torture if necessary to obtain a confession. Gagné and others gave in after their bodies were battered and their wills were broken. Once the verdict was in, mercy was granted in the form of an execution. The law required that they be publicly burned alive at the stake. For a fleeting moment in the 16th century, it seemed the devil had been let loose and the world had gone mad. Mary Matosian of the University of Maryland thinks it may be as simple as a case of spoiled bread. An expert on the witch hunts that plagued colonial America in the late 1600s, she noticed a startling similarity to the epidemic of werewolf trials in Europe. Eventually, a pattern began to emerge. Werewolf trials seemed to occur during or after extreme cold spells in regions seen here in blue, where rye was a staple of the diet.
We compare areas where rye was grown with places where witchcraft trials and werewolf trials were common. we can see that they overlap to an amazing degree.
Matosian came upon a reference to a fungus called ergot, a medieval folk medicine used in childbirth to speed up contractions. Ergot infects ears of rye when winter is extremely cold. Ergot seemed harmless enough. Still, she decided to consult George Bean, a colleague at the University of Maryland, and an expert on fungus. Matosian was in for a big surprise. Bean revealed that ergot is a powerful hallucinogen. The symptoms of ergot poisoning read like a horror story: muscle spasms, uncontrollable fits, and hallucinations of being bitten or pecked by some sharp, invisible force.
Those are the kind of symptoms that people who seem to be bewitched and people who are believed to be werewolves or think they're werewolves tend to display as well.
Matosian believes that if ergot can induce the hallucination of being a werewolf, it could also cause a whole village to believe they'd seen a werewolf. The evidence is compelling. In the 16th century, the scene was set for the appearance of werewolves. In the Jura Mountains in France, winters were harsh and the snow was deep. As it melted, it flowed into the valleys, flooding the lowlands and destroying the sensitive wheat crop. But the rye, which is hardier, survived. If the summers were hot, conditions were perfect for ergot. Most accused werewolves and their accusers were the poor and downtrodden. As a result, for more than a century, generation after generation of unsuspecting peasants were consuming rye bread and suffering convulsions and delusions caused by ergot poisoning. The hallucinations of werewolves produced by ergot were stark and vivid. People clung to the only explanation that made sense to them. Demons were afoot, and those who consorted with them deserved to die. Ergot poisoning vanished in the modern age with the introduction of official grain inspections in the United States and Europe. For Gilles Gagné, Matosian's astonishing testimony that food could kill would come 400 years too late to save him. The people of France are still haunted by the ghosts of werewolves. Real wolves were exterminated in Europe centuries ago, but the primal fear of the Wolfman still lingers as it did 400 years ago, when Gilles Gagné was led to the stake. Consumed by mass hysteria, the villagers looked on as the charges were read against him. Beyond a reasonable doubt, Gagné was a werewolf who had committed a vile and brutal murder. Doomed by the power of myth, he was sentenced to death. Today, the life of Gagné and thousands like him would have been saved by the expert testimony of modern science. He could have been poisoned. Or he could have been mentally ill from malnutrition. Even bread tainted with a tiny fungus could have been to blame. Once in a blue moon, someone is born who bears an astonishing resemblance to a wolf, but is perfectly healthy. We'll never know for certain what made people believe Gilles Gagné was a werewolf, but thanks to modern science, we finally have a few ideas. We may never have all of the answers, but the Wolfman, it seems, will always live on in our imaginations. Bye.